Good evening. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Story Time. Tonight, I'm going to be sharing a story called Hansel and Gretel. This story was collected and presented by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm and will be read to you tonight by yours truly, Tennille Milam. This story and all the stories that I present on my Storytime playlist are not intended for children. So this is going to be a two-parter. So this will be part one of Hansel and Gretel. Well, come on, Marina. You can come up here. Maybe Marina will come with us. I think she might just want my coffee. Be a good girl, Marina. Good girl. Okay, part one of Hansel and Gretel. Near a great forest, there lived a poor woodcutter and his wife and his two children. The boy's name was Hansel and the girl Gretel, and they had very little to bite or to sup. And once, when there was a great dearth in the land, the man could not even gain the daily bread. As he lay in bed one night thinking of this, and turning and tossing, he sighed heavily and said to his wife, "What will become of us? We cannot even feed our children. There is nothing left to ourselves." "I will tell you what, husband," answered the wife. "We will take the children early in the morning into the forest, where it is thick, and we will make them a fire, and will give each of them a piece of bread. And then we will go to our work, and we will leave them alone. They will never find the way home again, and we shall be quit of them." "No, wife," said the man, "I cannot do that. I cannot find it in my heart to take my children into the forest and to leave them there alone. The wild animals would soon come and devour them." "You fool," said she. "Then we will all four starve. You had better get the coffins ready." And she left him no peace until he consented. "But I really pity the poor children," said the man. The two children had not been able to sleep because of hunger, and had heard what their stepmother had said to their father. Gretel wept bitterly and said to Hansel, "It is all over with us." "Do be quiet, Gretel," said Hansel, "and do not fret. I will manage something." And when the parents had gone to sleep, he got up, and he put on his little coat, and he opened the back door, and he slipped outside. The moon was shining brightly, and the white flints that lay scattered in front of the house glistened like pieces of silver. Hansel stooped, and he filled the little pocket of his coat as full as it would hold. Then he went back inside again, and he said to Gretel, "Be easy, dear little sister, and go to sleep quietly. God will not forsake us." And he laid himself down in his bed. When the day was breaking, and before the sun had risen, the wife came and awakened the two children, saying, "Get up, you lazy bones. We're going into the forest to cut wood." Then she gave each of them a piece of bread and said, "That is for dinner, and you must not eat it before then, for you will get no more." Gretel carried the bread under her apron, for Hansel had his pockets full of the flints. Then they set off all together on their way to the forest. When they had gone a little way, Hansel stood still and looked back towards the house. And he did this again and again, till his father said to him, "Hansel, what are you looking at? Take care not to forget your legs." "Oh, father," said Hansel, "I am looking at my little white kitten, who is sitting up on the roof to bid me goodbye." "You young fool," said the woman, "that is not your kitten, but the sunshine on the chimney pot." Of course Hansel had not been looking at his kitten, but had been taking every now and then a flint from his pocket and dropping it on the road. When they reached the middle of the forest, the father told the children to collect wood to make a fire to keep them warm. And Hansel and Gretel gathered brushwood enough for a little mountain, and it was set on fire. And when the flame was burning quite high, the wife said, "Now lie down by the fire and rest yourselves, you children, and we will go and cut wood, and when we are ready, we shall come and fetch you." So Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire, and at noon they each ate a piece of their bread, and they thought of their father, and they thought he was in the woods all the time, as they seemed to hear the strokes from his axe, but really it was only a dry branch hanging to a withered tree that the wind had moved to and fro. So when they had stayed there for a long time, their eyelids closed with weariness, and they fell fast asleep. When at last they woke, it was night, and Gretel began to cry, and she said, "How shall we ever get out of this wood?" But Hansel comforted her, saying, "Wait a little longer until the moon rises, and then we can easily find our way home." And when the moon got up, Hansel took his little sister by the hand and followed the way where the flint stones shone like silver in the moonlight. And it showed them the road. They walked on all through the whole night, and at the break of day they came to their father's house. They knocked at the door, and when the wife opened it and saw that it was Hansel and Gretel, she said, "You naughty children! Why did you sleep so long in the wood? We thought you were never coming home again." But the father was glad, for it had gone to his heart to have left them both in the woods alone. Not very long after that, there was a great scarcity in those parts, and the children heard their mother say at night in bed to their father, "Everything is finished up. We have only half a loaf." And after that, the tale comes to an end. The children must be off. We will take them further into the wood this time, so that they shall not be able to find the way back again, and there will be no other way to manage. The man felt sad at heart, and he thought it would be better to share one's last morsel with one's children. But the wife would listen to nothing that he said, and she scolded him and reproached him. He who says A must say B too, and when a man has given in once, he has to do it a second time. But the children were not asleep. They had heard all the talk. When the parents had gone to sleep, little Hansel got up to go out and get more flint stones as he had done before, but the wife had locked the door, and Hansel could not get out. But he comforted his little sister, and he said, "Don't cry, Gretel. Go to sleep quietly, and God will help us." Early the next morning, the wife came and pulled the children out of bed. She gave them each a little piece of bread, less than before, and on the way to the wood, Hansel crumbled the bread in his pocket and often stopped to throw a crumb on the ground. "Hansel, what are you stopping behind and staring for?" said the father. "I'm looking at my little pigeon, sitting up there on the roof to say goodbye to me," said Hansel. "You fool," said the wife. "That is no pigeon, but the morning sun shining on the chimney pots." Hansel went on as before, and he strewed the breadcrumbs all along the road. The woman led the children far into the wood, where they had never been before in all their lives. And again there was a large fire made, and the mother said, "Sit still there, you children, and when you are tired you can go to sleep. We are going into the forest to cut wood, and in the evening, when you are ready to go home, we will come and fetch you." So when noon came, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, who had strewed his along the road. Then they went to sleep, and the evening passed, and no one came for the poor children. When they awoke, it was dark. It was night, and Hansel comforted his little sister, and he said, "Wait a little, Gretel, until the moon comes up, and then we shall be able to see all the way home by the crumbs of bread that I have scattered along it." So when the moon rose, they got up, but they could find no crumbs of bread, for the birds of the wood and of the field had come and picked them up. Hansel thought they might find the way all the same, but they could not. They went on all that night and the next day from morning until evening, but they could not find the way out of the wood, and they were very hungry, for they had nothing to eat but the few berries they could pick. And when they were so tired that they could no longer drag themselves along, they lay down under a tree and fell asleep in the dark wood. And that is where I'm going to conclude part 1, and I shall return with part 2. Thanks for joining me and Marina. I'll be back with part 2 real soon. Till then, y'all be sweet.